Okay, this is my 1940 Buick Special, along with my mess here. This is something I'm very proud of. I'm converting to dual brakes. This was by far the hardest thing I ever did. There are so many angles, and this is why you don't see a lot of information on the internet about it. I had bought another bracket, and that was not really the right angle as well. And I hacked it up and hacked it up and hacked it up, and it ended up being it interfered with the pedals and everything anyway. So in the end, the Master comes with 4 ports. I bought an aluminum Corvette style Master because it's much lighter, and I just felt that the cast iron one would have rusted down here and been compromised along with other things. But I took one of the plugs. It's a 5/16 plug. Yeah, I could have went directly here to there or here to the other side, but I didn't want to go put brakes around the exhaust. So I put a plug. I jumped this to the back one because it was easier. And this is the original line, unmolested, which was in this line. And I bent it, put the adapter, and it went right in there. Then, besides having to change the, you can see before I get to the piston arm and everything, because that was a pain. You can see there's a piece of angle iron there that I have spaced out a bit away from the chassis, and that's what the bracket is attached to. But then there are bolts underneath that are attached to a much bigger bracket. So I used the original bolt holes without really messing with something, and then I elongated these holes because this would not have been at a decent angle here. So that's more straight. The original one has a pivot ball inside there, and you really can't do anything with it, and it was really far off. It actually has, I think it has a lot of stress on it, but obviously it worked. But by doing this, and believe me, I played 100 times with all these things, but I put bigger carriage bolts into the chassis, and then when I bolted this other piece of angle iron on top of this one, I made it like that, so it gave this the Master a different angle. And then I have the main bracket that I chopped down. Now in the end, most of these Master cylinders, they list a stroke of like 1 1/16 of an inch, and right here I did everything I could. I could probably shave it down more, but it touches just slightly. I even ground that a hair, but it just touches. But there's literally almost nothing else to go through, and it's an 1 1/8 Master, which should be harder to apply the brakes, but I'll have more fluid. So as long as you have your weight of your foot behind it, it should be fine, and it should push more fluid than the original one ever did. So even if it, God forbid, something bottomed out right there on a brake failure, it'll be fine. So the next step is to, I bought some of these clutch pedal, balls. I gotta figure that out. I haven't took it apart yet, but I had all this out. I just put this there. It looks like it's working. I may put something else. There was just like a wire sitting there, but I had to drill out the bushings. I knocked out the bushings, and they don't make these bushings. I tried everywhere. I should have paid somebody to ream them out. If you go to a real machine shop and have them ream it to 7/8, you could buy a bushing from Granger, and then you drill a hole into it and press it in. Ended up being, I used a drill press myself, and I used a 55/64 socket, and it really wasn't tight enough. It was too tight. So it ended up being the bushing was made with the press, like the amount of interference for the pressing built within the bushing. So it was okay and then I had to get a 7/8 drill bit, and I used a cheap Harbor Freight drill press. It really didn't come out that great. It was kind of funky in places, but what are you gonna do? Ultimately, I think I wouldn't have gone all the way through so that the bushing is something to bottom out against, but I put Loctite on the bushing in the end. It's fine. It was tight enough because the old ones were slit bushings and they came right out. So all I got to do is I got to put the stop back into this one, and I got to grease these up, and it should be fine. And I bought I changed all that stuff. I'm gonna hook a spring onto this, a return spring for the brakes. That's what I did with, you know, a bolt, because there was a spot for a spring, and then that's like a swivel joint there that came with this whole setup over here, you know. And the rubber, it came out really good, all things considered. And I gave myself, you know, that much clutch pedal, brake pedal free play. Where am I? Gotta have a little bit, and the less I need to go, because when you heat up your brakes, I did this with another old car, that when I heated up the brakes, now granted that was an original Master, a one-stage Master, not a dual-stage Master. It pushed back out on it, but I also could have a problem with the brake hose. This is a Dodge that I was working on, so I was just cognizant of giving it more free play. But the less free play I give it, the more I'll have in stroke on the Master, just in case. But I mean, there's no information on this online, zero. So, like I said, now I'm gonna play with this because I found that there was a lot of play in this whole clutch setup here. The bushing in here, which is I don't think it's a bushing, it's just the ball and socket, but I didn't realize, once I finally got all the weight off it, I was like, oh my God, this is moving a lot. And it's got to bind and cause some problem. So, otherwise, a lot of headache. It came out pretty good. And that the swivel over here actually, you know, corrected the angle with the Master, made it a lot better. And then on the inside here, I decided to drill a hole through here, and I put a cotter pin in here because it's really sloppy, you know. It really relies on this being, you know, more centered than the other piece, because I had taken this off and I was playing with the brakes all this time. And then once I finally set it, I put it all together. But then in the end, I realized that the pin was just sitting there. And that's when I finally took the pin out and realized that the bushing was shot and everything. It was kind of like wedged into the chassis. You know, ultimately it would be better to have a bushing in the chassis, like a heavy steel bushing, and just, you know, so it supports it on center. But it's hard to figure that out exactly, you know, once you bolt this guy back in. So that's my thing going on here. And then forgive the mess, because that's what I am. I'm gonna stop. I got high torque starter. I'm gonna convert it all to 12 volts. Already put the Pertronics in. I removed the you know, this guy, I got this off of Rock Auto. I gotta put these in different positions, one on one side, one on the other side. I drilled out the holes, these two holes right here. So I'm gonna put it back in the original place, and it's gonna go like that. And it should be a nice screw-on filter right on the top there. And that's why I was asking yesterday about increasing the size. I just feel like more oil would be better. I just hope it's not a problem. But I mean, the worst case scenario, if I find that there's pressure drops, I don't think it's going to be with the motor. I just think that's the way it's designed. I can always change the exit one to a smaller one, because then that will restrict it just the same then. So far so good. I'm gonna, because this is a 1950s engine, not a 1940s. The original coil was up here, but the bracket is part of it. I try to rig the bracket. I bent this bracket, it's a universal bracket. I tried to bend it to go around, it wouldn't fit. And I'm like, I'm just gonna use this. It goes with the fuel pump, vacuum line, but I'm just gonna use that and put it where it was in the 50s cars. It don't matter for me. This car's been sitting. I even bought a different gas tank for this, and I'm gonna make it work. This car is gonna be a movie car. I use classic cars in TV and movies, so I want it to be more reliable. I even wanted to put electric steering in, but the last time I saw somebody do it to one of these cars, they did it under the hood, which I'd rather have the dual master than the electric steering. I could deal without the steering. Obviously, if I was driving in New York City, it would be better for steering, but you really do want to stop before you go. I'll worry about that afterwards if there's another solution for it. But these are not the original seats, but they won't see it on camera. So far, so good. It was a lot of fun doing this.